Hey y'all, it's Bear, and today I'm here with an interesting discussion video for you today. And we're going to be talking about the villainization of femininity and beauty in horror. Specifically, we're going to be looking at two examples. We're going to be looking at the Diablo Cody black comedy film Jennifer's Body and the manga Tomie by Junji Ito. I also want to say that both examples I'm using and I will be talking about in this video are women, and I don't have any lived experience as a woman personally. It's just something that I noticed with different types of media that I'm engaging in. I thought it would make an interesting discussion video, something to kind of break up the tags and recommendations. So recently I read the manga Tomie by Junji Ito right there. Thank you to my friend Mark for letting me borrow it. Hi Mark. While reading it, I was struck by so many similarities to the film Jennifer's Body. First, we're going to talk about Tomie. I'm going to give you a basic rundown of the plot, then we will merge into the similarities between Tomie and Jennifer's Body. I want to go ahead and be clear in my focus for this video is the way that characters in both pieces of media and reviewers and people discussing the media villainize our two protagonists for being beautiful. So this manga is about a young girl named Tomie who is having an affair with her teacher in the first chapter, threatens to tell the school, says that she's pregnant. She's trying to kind of escalate the situation, and he throws her off a cliff. Essentially, she falls off a cliff during a class field trip, and the teacher convinces the entire student body, everyone on the field trip, that they're going to chop her up into pieces and they're going to scatter her around. They find out she's not actually dead, so they cut her. They dismember her, and then the next day at school, Tomie appears in the classroom. We learn that for each chunk of Tomie that was dismembered, a new Tomie can grow in its place. And now Tomie is kind of destined to this existence of men being driven to insanity by her beauty, wanting to do everything for her, wanting to give her the world. Women being ridiculously jealous of her beauty, and then her being ripped apart. We find out later in the manga that every iteration of Tomie has a shared memory. So each Tomie can remember everything that's happened to her. Each iteration of Tomie that gets further and further away from the original, she becomes a little less human, a little bit more sinister, a little bit more materialistic. So essentially it's reverse character development. She is becoming less and less and less of a human as we go on throughout the manga. In a similar sense, in Jennifer's Body, Megan Fox's character is murdered in a ritual sacrifice by the members of this band called Low Shoulder. They say they need to send a virgin sacrifice, and Jennifer is not a virgin, she just said she was. The sacrifice backfires, and now a demon has possessed Jennifer's body. And now, in order to stay beautiful, Jennifer has to murder men and, suck the life out of them. In this video, I said I specifically want to talk about the way that reviewers and characters in the media engage with these two protagonists and their beauty, their bodies, their physical appearances. And I think this is also kind of a difficult discussion to have. And as an adult, it feels weird to watch other adults berate teenage girl characters who were essentially taken advantage of by men in positions of power, older men in positions of power. In Jennifer's Body, it is the band, and in Tomie, it is her teacher who has possibly impregnated his underage student. And as I said, in the manga, men are driven to insanity by how beautiful she is. Women are driven to this ridiculous amount of jealousy by how beautiful she is. Getting to the root of the problem, why is Tomie, why is Jennifer, why are these things happening? No one's trying to help them. In Jennifer's Body, Amanda Seyfried's character, Needy, who was Jennifer's best friend demonic possession, isn't even really trying to help her friend. She's friends with Jennifer, and she continues to be friends with Jennifer. Megan Fox's character takes these men who are viewing her in a sexual light, who are objectifying her for her body, it's even in the title, Jennifer's Body, and taking their vitality. I think that this is a really interesting way, not that the characters are using their appearances for evil, their appearance is the reason that other people gravitate towards them, that ends maliciously. I hope I'm making this clear. Like, Tomie never uses the fact that she's pretty to her advantage. People just gravitate towards her because she's beautiful, and that will ultimately cause her demise. And in Jennifer's Body, the only people that she attacks, the only people that she murders, are men who will not leave her alone. They're like high school boys who are harassing her for a date, who are trying to hook up with her. Like, those are the people that she's killing. Aside from the end of the film, but that's besides the point. If you look at the feedback on Goodreads, negative reviews of Tomie mainly cite the fact that she becomes materialistic, that she becomes bitchy, that she becomes evil, and no one is acknowledging that we are witnessing her becoming less and less of a human and more divided. Like, her essence is literally being divided hundreds of times into multiple little Tomies, and for every story that we get, she gets further away from being a person. And if you just look at the criticisms for Jennifer's Body, any of the negative critiques, it was primarily about how the marketing made it out to be like a very sexual Megan Fox's boobs are everywhere film, and not the black comedy social commentary that it was. I'll leave a link downstairs that I would like for you to go check out. That's an interview between Megan Fox and Diablo Cody, where they discuss the film. They talk about, you know, how it was received then versus how it's gained like a following now, as well as a couple of videos that break down the chapter by chapter manga of Tomie if you would like to go further in depth with it. I just think it's really interesting though that the way that the characters in the manga slash film engage with Jennifer and Tomie versus the way that reviewers and film critics and like real life people engage with the media with these two characters who have very similar stories. I do think that there's an interesting discussion to be had about how hyperfemininity is viewed as bad. Look at any like high school classic movie, you know, that like the pretty mean girl thing, right? Like, we all know about the pretty mean girl trope. We know about the Regina Georges. We know about the Heather Chandlers. We know, right? We all are familiar with this. So I think it's really interesting that we are not supposed to root for pretty people. We're not supposed to root for like the beautiful girls. Then we are making them out to be villains, whenever at the root of it, both of these characters essentially were murdered by men who wanted something different from them. There are power dynamics that I've never seen discussed in the context of these two pieces of media. Older men attacking and murdering these younger teenage girls. We don't talk about the sexual aspects involved between these younger teenage girls and these older men. We don't talk about like the sexualization of them. We just think that because they're pretty and they're bitchy, that's what makes them evil. But it's not the fact that they're pretty that makes them evil. It's the fact that men have treated them like shit. I am glad that in the era of like Gaslight, Girl Boss, Gatekeep, Good for Her horror films, we are finally acknowledging that characters like this, these teenage girls who are dead, right? Like, they're dead because of shitty older guys who wanted something from them in a sexual sense, having to do with their sexuality, are just reacting in a way that I like to believe most of us would if we suddenly came into demonic abilities. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know by liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting the bell, answering the comment question of the day. Comment question of the day. I want to know if you have any recommendations for media similar to these two that we can engage with further. I would also like to know your thoughts on either one of these if you have read or watched either one of them. If you don't have time, you don't have the spoons, you don't have an answer, you don't want to answer, you can leave me an emoji, preferably a yellow heart or a smiley face emoticon, so I know you made it all the way until the end of the video. All my social media links as well as everything I mentioned today will be in the description downstairs, so make sure you go check that out. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you tomorrow for another spooky video. Thank you for watching. Okay, cool, bye. I did that all in one breath.